science confirms your reality is a controlled hallucination. What if I told you that you've never really seen, heard, or touched the world outside of you? That every sunrise, every conversation, every feeling you've ever felt wasn't a direct pipeline to reality, but an elaborate simulation, generated and controlled entirely from inside your own skull. This isn't a line from a sci-fi movie. It's a startling conclusion taking hold at the forefront of neuroscience. The world you experience isn't coming from the outside in. It's being generated from the inside out. You're not just a passive observer of reality. You're the architect of it. And getting your head around this one truth will fundamentally change how you react to and shape every single part of your life. Section 1. The hallucination we all agree on. Okay, I know what you're thinking. Hallucination sounds a little crazy, but leading neuroscientists like Anil Seth argue that what we experience as the world is essentially a controlled hallucination. Now, that word can be misleading if it makes you think nothing is real or that what you see is totally random. That's not it at all. A better way to think about it is that your brain is an obsessive prediction machine. It doesn't just sit back and wait for information to come in through your eyes and ears. Instead, it's constantly making its best guess about what's out there. Your conscious experience, what you see, hear, and feel right now, is that guess. Think about color. We know from physics that colors don't actually exist out in the world. There's just a spectrum of colorless electromagnetic radiation. Your brain gets this raw data and essentially paints the world with color because it's a useful way to tell things apart. You see the world not as it is, but in a way that's helpful for your survival. The same goes for almost everything. Even the sensation of wetness is a construction. Your skin has no dedicated moisture sensors. Your brain creates the feeling of wetness by combining signals for temperature and touch with its prior knowledge of what being wet should feel like. This is why optical illusions work so brilliantly. They're hacks that exploit the gap between your brain's prediction and the data it gets. Take the famous checker shadow illusion. Two squares on a chessboard look like different shades, one dark and one light. In reality, they are the exact same color. Your brain, predicting how a shadow should darken a pattern, literally changes your perception of reality to fit the story it expects. The reality we all agree on is simply the collective hallucination that our brains have learned to sync up with one another. It's a construction, but it's a controlled one, tethered to a world that is very much real, even if we can never experience it directly. Section 2. Inside the prediction engine, the science of your simulated world. So, how does the brain pull this off? A highly influential theory in neuroscience is called predictive processing, or predictive coding. For centuries, we figured perception worked from the bottom up. Senses gather info, send it up to the brain, and the brain builds a picture of the world, like assembling a puzzle. Predictive processing flips that idea on its head. It argues that perception is mostly a top-down process. Here's the gist. Your brain uses your entire life's experience to build internal models of how the world works. It uses these models to constantly generate predictions about the sensory information it expects to receive. Think of it as your brain whispering, "Okay, based on everything I know, this is what's about to happen." These predictions flow from the higher, more abstract parts of your brain down to the basic sensory areas. The light hitting your retina and the sound hitting your eardrum don't create your perception from scratch. Their main job is to be a fact checker, to report prediction errors. A prediction error is simply the mismatch between what your brain guessed and what your senses are actually reporting. If the prediction is good, very little new information needs to travel up the chain. Your brain thinks, "Yep, just as I expected," and your reality feels stable. But if there's a huge prediction error, a sudden, unexpected loud noise, for example, that error signal screams up the hierarchy, forcing your brain to update its model. The brain's main job is to minimize this prediction error over time, making its internal simulation of the world as useful as possible. This isn't a slow process. It happens on a millisecond by millisecond basis. The heavy lifting of creating your reality is done by your brain's top-down predictions. Sensory input is just the quality control that keeps your personal hallucination tethered to the real world. A brilliant extension of this is active inference. This idea suggests your brain doesn't just passively wait for errors. It actively seeks out information to confirm its hypotheses about the world. When you shift your eyes to get a better look at something, you're actively sampling the environment to reduce prediction error and make your simulation more accurate. Your actions and perceptions are locked in a continuous dance. Predict, act, perceive, update. You're not just building a model of the world. You're constantly testing it with your own behavior. Section 3. Hacking your hallucination. How to reshape your reality. This might sound abstract, but its implications for your life are massive. If your reality is a construction based on predictions, it means you have the power to influence that construction. You can become a co-creator of your own experience. Here's how. First, question the absolute truth of your feelings. When you feel a surge of anger or a wave of anxiety, hit the pause button. Understand that this feeling is not a direct reaction to what just happened. It's your brain's prediction based on its internal model. According to the theory of constructed emotion, an emotion is your brain's best guess for what your internal bodily sensations mean in a given context. By simply asking, "What prediction is my brain making right now?" you create a tiny bit of space. That space allows you to notice the prediction instead of being swept away by it, giving you a chance to react differently. Second, start deliberately updating your internal models. Your brain's models are built from past experiences, and they can get rigid, leading to negative loops. If you have a core belief that you're not good enough, your brain will predict failure. It will then filter your world for evidence that confirms that belief, while conveniently ignoring anything that contradicts it. You literally help create the reality you fear. To break the cycle, you have to challenge your predictions. This is where active inference becomes a powerful tool. Seek out small experiences that generate a prediction error for your negative beliefs. If you predict social rejection, try a small, low-stakes social interaction. If you predict failure at a new skill, take the first tiny step. Every time you act against a negative prediction and the world doesn't end, you feed your brain a powerful error signal. Slowly but surely, this begins to rewrite the underlying model. Third, manage your state by balancing your brain's biases. This framework offers a new lens to look at conditions like anxiety. You could think of an anxiety-prone state as one where the brain's prior beliefs, the predictions, are way too strong, overpowering the actual sensory data. You end up experiencing the world you fear, regardless of the evidence. On the flip side, some states of hypersensitivity might be when those priors are too weak, leaving you overwhelmed by raw sensory input without a stable model to make sense of it. This model is also being explored to understand conditions like ADHD, where there might be an imbalance in how the brain weighs its own predictions against incoming sensory information. Practices like meditation can help by softening overly rigid predictions, making your brain more flexible and open to new information, allowing you to find a more balanced and responsive state of mind. The most powerful takeaway from all this science is that you are not a victim of your circumstances or your feelings. You are a co-creator of your reality. It all starts with recognizing the simulation for what it is. I'd love to hear from you. Share a moment in the comments when you realized your perception of a situation was just one possible story, and changing your perspective changed the entire experience. Your story might just create a prediction error for someone else and help them update their own model. Conclusion. The science of predictive processing isn't saying your life is a lie. It's saying that your experience of life is a deeply personal, actively constructed work in progress. You aren't a camera passively recording the world. You're an artist, and your brain is the canvas. Your memories and beliefs are the paint, and your senses are just the light that helps guide your hand. For centuries, we've looked outward to understand the universe. Now, neuroscience is revealing that the universe we actually live in is generated from within. By understanding the machinery of your own controlled hallucination, you gain the ability to consciously adjust the controls. You can't always change what happens in the world, but you can change the predictions your brain makes about it. And in doing so, you don't just change your reaction to reality, you begin to change reality itself.